Hey everybody, I'm Sierra,
And I'm Will.
and welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Will and I, or this week, recap one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay, everybody, we have a special guest. My dad is in town, and so I conned you into...
That's right, conned.
Yeah, into sitting in and doing this because
My
you're
pleasure.
a 70s child. So I would love for you to tell us, Pops, do you remember Unsolved Mysteries in its days?
Oh, yeah. And what was that in the 80s that show
Late
came
80s,
out?
early 90s.
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
don't know that I spent a lot of time.
You were doing other things?
Yeah. But I certainly remember that guy with that trench coat and the music and him having that stiff body when he comes in. It was kind of fun because I watched it in preparation for today's episode. So it was kind of fun to get ready for it.
To go back and watch those. But you weren't a regular viewer of it, but you knew about it in its days.
I did, but it wasn't my cup of tea, if you will.
Yeah, which I think is going to be fun because Ben's like you. I say true crime, is it something you've ever been into? Crime shows, crime things, nothing?
I didn't watch The Love Boat. I don't
know what The Love Boat is.
I watched Gilligan's Island.
I don't think that's
when I was a kid, but that was in 70s. No, I don't. I just didn't do I feel bad for those folks. It's sad. It's just sad. A sad deal.
Yeah.
So
is there any crimes from like over the last 30, 40 years that you followed or found intriguing? I mean, we've got some big ones, OJ and different things like that. Do you remember those taking place?
Oh, yeah. I remember where I was when watching the white Bronco going down the freeway and the helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Where were you? Do you remember?
Yeah, we were at Kowloon's, the restaurant in Roseburg, and they had a TV going, and Pam was there for a radio deal, and we were just all watching it, enthralled, and then of course the trial.
Yeah.
And yes, I think he's guilty.
Well, you can say that now because he's dead.
Well,
did you know he wrote a book that was like, If I Had Done It?
What's that? If it don't fit, you can't acquit.
If the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit. Yeah, something like that.
And he was a good actor as well. Great athlete. I loved watching him play football.
I think it's what was sad for so many people is that he had so much potential, but he was an angry, angry person. Okay, so today there's actually 4 stories. We are recapping what is this, season 4, episode 14 of Unsolved Mysteries. And so since I dragged my dad into this, he's only going to cover one story. But before I get started on our first story, if you are enjoying The Unsolved Couple and, going down the rabbit holes with us, please do us a small favor that makes a big difference. We are a small independent podcast. We don't have a network or a safety net, just us and our computers and listeners like you. So if you haven't followed yet, please consider following us on all social medias, liking, sharing, and commenting on our posts, and most importantly, leave us a 5-star rating or review wherever you listen. It really does make a big difference. We also have a couple of ways you can support us as we are growing as well. In the link below, there is a support the show link as well as buy me a coffee. And anyone that does those things, I will send you a little DM thanking you for it and also get one of your favorite memories or from the late 80s, early 90s, or as well as maybe your favorite episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Okay. So we are starting off this with a man named Phillip Fraser. And he was a 25-year-old kid, basically, who left his home in Anchorage, Alaska, to go to Evergreen College in Washington State. He left home June 14th, 1988. And on June 17th, after losing 2 days to car trouble, he crossed the border into Canada. And while at the checkpoint, he declared to the Border Patrol people, I guess, there, that he had 2 firearms. And of course, then they were seized because you can't take firearms from one country to another. So, and we're going to find out later that unfortunately probably helped seal his fate. So an hour later, he was on his way. I'm actually was surprised that he wasn't arrested. I mean, I guess he did declare them, but I guess it's better than trying to sneak them in. So the next day, a male hitchhiker is dropped off at a small cafe in rural Canada, and we get B-roll during this episode of this highway, and it's very dense woods, and there's nothing around. And there's a little tiny cafe called the 40 Mile Flat, and it's owned by a woman named Gay Frockledge and her daughter Tina. And it's 600 miles from the border checkpoint that Philip had entered. And this man comes in. It's not Philip that comes in at this time. A man comes in, and they instantly get that feeling that something is off. And, everyone always trust your gut. And they felt his behavior was strange, that they actually talked about behind the counter, because the two women are interviewed, the mother and the daughter, that maybe he had escaped a mental institution, which I don't think anything could be more like late 80s and early 90s horror movie. Isn't that how Michael Myers? Did you watch those movies? Did Michael Myers escape something?
Yeah, I don't think I watched. I don't like those thriller movies, those scary Halloween.
Yeah.
No, I don't do those either.
Yeah, but I feel like that was
Sports.
a pretty common storyline. He must have escaped a mental institution. So,
but what I remember them in those gals, they noticed that he was somewhat overweight, had a flabby belly.
The way they described him.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was later stories about how he had, that he had an odor.
He had a distinct body odor.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't want him riding in my car.
Can you imagine trying to eat next to that person too?
No.
You're just trying to enjoy your protein. So he was so off-putting to the point where the mother wouldn't leave the daughter alone in the cafe with this guy. And a few minutes into this interaction, Philip drives up to the cafe and is looking in his car for something. Tina goes out to pump gas for another customer and says hello to Philip. The hitchhiker then paid for the meal and left the cafe. As he's leaving the cafe, Tina sees the man ask Philip for a ride. And according to her, Philip refuses. So the hitchhiker kind of takes off and starts walking away. And again, we don't know what the interaction was, but Philip, for some reason, seems to hop in his car and go towards the hitchhiker and roll down his window. And I don't know if he was having a conversation with him that was a positive one or a negative one, but for some reason, the hitchhiker then runs after the car and aggressively opens up the door to get in.
Yeah, I don't think that car had the power door locks.
That's terrifying. Yeah.
It looked like it was a Volkswagen Jetta type car.
Yeah, it looked like some, and I don't know if many cars in this time would have had, especially if you'd already given him troubles. It was probably an older car. And sadly, this is the last time that Philip is seen alive after this man kind of forcefully enters his vehicle. 8 hours later, and 200 miles south of the cafe, a hitchhiker flags down a couple, Eddie and Pauline Olson, claiming that he was having car trouble. And they could tell that he was nervous, but they assumed that he was just kind of afraid of the area because, again, this is a very stark, rural, sparsely populated area. And so they agree to tow him back to their home and then, even more crazy, allow this man to spend the night in their basement. Have you ever taken in a stranger at all? It seems like that was more common. I don't know, maybe these people were just nice country folk, but that seems crazy to me nowadays to let a stranger stay in your home.
No, I've never done that. And the fact that he was downstairs in the basement and that the homeowner said in his interview that there was 12 guns down there.
Yeah.
So, and from the storyline, the timeline, this guy had already committed a murder.
Yeah.
And here he is, and he smelled.
I know.
I can't get over that.
That'd be the first time. I'm sorry. No, you can't stay here. So the next morning, the hitchhiker tells Eddie and Pauline that his name was Phillip Fraser, his parents are doctors in Anchorage, and that he's heading to Washington to study medicine. So he's piggybacked off of Philip's original, intent of why he left. He also mentioned that he was looking to sell his car for a plane ticket. And Eddie asks if, so he offers the homeowners, do you want to buy my car? And the guy kind of talks about it and says, yeah, we can, but they wanted to wait and have the purchase go through customs. And this man refuses, saying that he's got to leave sooner than later because all he was selling the car for was a plane ticket, a one-way ticket down to Washington. So at this time, Eddie and Pauline, for the first time, the first red flag that they notice is that morning when this man pulls out 2 wallets and kind of tries to behave secretly around having 2 wallets, pays him like a $20 in American money. And the people at the cafe had noted that he had paid with Canadian currency. So I will say, living in America, Canadian currency coins are the most annoying thing in the world because nothing worse than getting a quarter back and not realizing at the time and then realizing that you got a Canadian quarter.
Why are they so much closer?
They are exactly
in size?
The same.
It's the goofiest thing.
I know, but vending machines figured it out quick because I tried one time, and it got rejected every time, which is...
They are not, they're like...
identical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a 30-second inch. There may be a 30-second inch difference in a quarter. American and Canadian.
For a while, our currency was not dollar for dollar matching. So it was frustrating, especially I think living in Oregon. I think you might saw it more the more northern you get. I don't think I've dealt with that as much here in Canada or in Tucson, having Canadian currency accidentally mixed into my quarters.
Ours are worth way more now after the USA hockey team.
Yeah. Victory. The hockey team winning against Canada made the economy, just the quarter though.
Yeah.
Just spike way high. So he then leaves to go out and fix his car, I guess, and figures out that it's just a broken fan belt. I don't know what that means, but it was a simple repair, I guess. It was able to get the part or put the fan belt back on and drives away and is never seen again. 12 hours after the hitchhike left Eddie and Pauline's home, Philip's burnt out car was found at a car wash in Prince George, British Columbia, which was 300 miles away from the Olsen residence. It's presumed that the hitchhiker set fire to the vehicle to destroy evidence. 6 weeks later, on July 27th, Philip's body is found in a gravel turnaround 70 miles from Eddie and Paulina's home. So what you were saying earlier, when he's got car troubles, 70 miles down the road, depending on how fast he was driving, means about an hour earlier, he had just murdered somebody.
Yeah.
And now he's, hey, can you tow me into town and let me stay the night at your house?
Yeah. I can't imagine being calm, cool, and collect and not, I don't know. There wasn't anything about how he was killed. Of course.
Dang it. I think I looked it up.
He died of asphyxiation from the smell.
The toxic smell. That reminds me of the SpongeBob episode where he has bad breath. Do you remember that?
Yeah. This is really a sad story because this kid was, 25?
Yeah. It's a terrible story. He had a bright future. He was driving down here. So I also read in another place that there was a couple of other motorists who had interacted with this hitchhiker. Again, I think at this time, hitchhikers were less common than maybe they had been in the late 70s and early 80s, but it still wasn't seen as like a super high risk activity, I think especially for a male. And so a couple of other motorists had picked this gentleman up, that the tips came in post Unsolved Mysteries. So it makes me wonder what had happened, because if he had gotten in the car with multiple other people and then stayed the night at someone's house where there is firearms, what had to have happened for Philip to become a target?
Yeah, was he
mad that he had refused him a ride at first?
Could be. That the reenactment kind of played to the point that he actually forced himself into the car.
Yeah.
And he was not really stopped fully, and the guy opened the door and jumped in, and off they went. So he was probably, that's what the reenactments
imagine like when
show.
You played a joke on your friend and you you slow the car down to let them in and then you go forward. It looked like that, but in a non-fun, aggressive way. And so, oh yeah, so I found it. Here we go. He had been shot to death with a pistol. So again,
Oh yeah.
where and the other thing I don't think
And
Unsolved Mysteries said, all of his, because Philip had his life in the car because he was moving down to Washington. So he had all of his clothing. He had a bunch of camping supplies and stuff because that's a big activity and event he was super into and wanted to participate in Washington. All of his luggage, everything was cleaned out of the vehicle. That wasn't found burned in the vehicle. And none of that stuff to date has ever been found. So also what happened to all of that stuff?
yeah, I imagine it got thrown in the river or something,
Yeah.
What time of the year was that? I can't remember.
July. Well, the body was found in July. He went missing in June, so it's summertime.
Yeah.
So the
But
water's moving.
snow
It's
melt.
not. Yeah. So the rivers are high. Yeah, and probably moving swift. So our main suspect here is a mysterious hitchhiker. He has never been identified, so that's why we're at Unsolved Mysteries. They are asking people to report anything. So this man is a Caucasian male. What is that?
Caucasian.
Caucasian male, 5'9", weighing about 225 pounds, and no joke, I quote you, with a flabby belly that overhangs his pants. Brown hair, brown eyes, and witnesses also recall him biting his nails and describing him as speaking slowly and walking with a waddle, which led some to believe that maybe he had an impairment. He's also described as having foul body odor and rotting teeth. Ooh. So that's the other thing. I think if anyone had interacted with this man or picked this guy up, you would remember this man in those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he seek dental? I mean, did he go to a dentist?
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah. And so at the time of the murder, he's believed to be between 20 and 25 years of age. He tells a couple of other motorists who had picked him up that he had relatives in Tok, Alaska, and that he was working for a fish processing plant there. He told another witness that he was a medical student from Toronto and had just left a friend's wedding in White House, Yukon, and was hitchhiking home. It is unknown whether any of these details he gave were factual or things he had fabricated, since he also lied about other things. And investigators believe that the hitchhiker learned everything he could about Philip and then killed him. Then he believed that he used Philip's identity after the murder and still may have Philip's credit cards, checkbook, passport, and birth certificate to date, which have never been found. So if anyone's listening to this and you're going through someone's old box or belongings and you find something like that could potentially help solve this murder. The last area he was traced to was Prince George, which does have an airport that could have possibly been used as a mean of used as escaping after a murder. From my understanding back then, I don't know if you needed a passport to fly from Canada to the United States. I think there was a time where that wasn't required. So I don't know if there's any records that his passport was used through customs. Yeah. But okay, are you guys ready for your update as of today? This is still unsolved. The Canadian Royal Mountain Police stated in a 2008 statement that there has been zero significant updates or developments since the airing of the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. Recently, there had been speculation that Philip was a victim of a Canadian serial killer named Michael McGray, who murdered several hitchhikers around the time of Philip's death. He also matches the description of Philip's suspect. However, has not been linked to the case, which remains unsolved. The RCMP sources have stated that he was ruled out because the suspect had actually been serving a 5-year prison sentence at the time, so he couldn't, for a robbery. So the timelines don't exactly match up. And sadly, Philip's father, Dr. Roberts Fraser, passed away in 2014, and I couldn't find any update on whether the mother has since passed away. But
yeah, that was tough to watch the interview of his.
His mom's
parents,
interview is. Mm-hmm.
It was sad.
It was sad.
And his father was able to keep it together. I don't know how long that would take in my setting as a father to be interviewed by that, but
yeah,
they did a really good job of
sharing
keeping it together in the interview, but actually his mother was,
Yeah, she expressed that
very sad. His father was too.
This took away part of her life, basically. Yeah, she was walking around half alive after this.
Yeah,
and
he was 25.
Yeah, and just you send your kid off to college. You guys have done that. You've said goodbye to your kids as they drive away.
Yeah,
and so I did look up. This is still considered an open investigation. If this person rings a bell, you come across belongings, any information. We do have actually quite a bit of our listener base in Canada. If you have anything that you've thought of, or a story you've heard, or a weird family member that meets this description, please reach out. If you have anything you can possibly add to this, to the the Canadian Royal Mountain Police Department, and leave a tip. And who knows? Murders this old are getting solved every day. And, it could take finding any of those, paper possessions. If someone found his wallet or his credit cards or his birth certificate, that'd be huge. So, all right, Dad.
Wow, it's my turn.
You're up.
Okay.
Okay.
And
good luck.
Sierra, thank you. Yeah, this is cool. First time to be able to be on your broadcast or your podcast with you. Thank you.
You're gonna get recognized now all over Douglas County.
In no way can I replace Ben. I love listening to Ben.
Ben is so excited though to have a week. Like he thought this was the best thing ever. He was on board for this the moment I said it.
So feel free to fill in, Sierra, anytime. But this is a story about this was a boat. It was called like a snapper fishing boat that sank in April of 1990, called the the Casey Nicole. They were based in Georgia. I have some information about Georgia. I'll share a little bit later where this was, but they went out and I think they were only out. They were supposed to go out 90 miles to catch some snapper. There were four people on. Billy Joe Neesmith, Keith Wilkes, and Franklin Brantley, as well as the brother of Billy Joe Neesmith, Nathan Neesmith. Nathan was the only survivor. Sorry to be a spoiler there, but
that is the thing about Unsolved Mysteries. A lot of times you learn the end at the beginning, and then you get a little bit of how you get from point A to point B. Yeah.
Right. So on April 12th, 1990, this boat went out on a fishing trip, and it was supposed to be out for 7 days. It had been in dry dock for 5 days earlier, doing repairs. Excuse me.
And dry dock means that it was pulled out of the water for repairs?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So they went out, and that evening, like at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, one of the drivers of the boat noticed that the boat was really sluggish, and was having a hard time advancing, if you will, and started looking around, looked in the engine compartment, noticed a bunch of water. Their bilge pumps had failed. They weren't working properly. There were two guys down. So I'm considering that boat, they didn't really say how big it was, maybe 20. I'm considering it was maybe 20, 24 feet type.
Yeah, it
boat.
wasn't a tiny little fishing boat because they were planning on being out there for a week. This wasn't a 3-hour tour.
Right. But they had some sleeping quarters. They went down and grabbed those guys, tried to wake them up, and said, hey, we need some help getting, certain.
This instantly makes my armpit sweaty because this is one of my biggest fears is being like, what do? You're in the middle of the ocean. You are out of your element 100%.
Yeah, and it's the middle of the night. And so they woke those other guys up, and they noticed just a foot underneath of where their beds were. So these guys were crashed out, sleeping, and right below them, a foot below them, was over a foot of water coming into the boat. So the reason that boat was sluggish was it was packing a ton of water. So they started trying to bucket out water. I don't know how many buckets they may have had, but trying to get the water off board.
You're just doing anything you can at that point, right?
Yeah. Using coffee cups or whatever. I don't know.
But it's taking on water while you're also dumping water out, right?
Right.
So it's an
they
endless
could
cycle.
not keep up with the flood. And so, the bilge pumps went out. They tried to get on the radio and the motor stalled. They lost power. So they were doomed. They had nothing.
Like dead in the water.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So they got out their life raft. And four guys got in the life raft. Now, and these were all fairly young. I mean, I think Nathan Neesmith, I think he was 19. His brother was 18 or something. But they were really all pretty young men. And they noticed when they were when they got the life raft out that it was kind of like, he said, rotted. Now these guys had the Georgia accent. I appreciated Nathan's, he did a great job kind of talking about it a little bit. I don't know how much longer after the incident was that they filmed this, but I thought his testimony was fantastic.
I agree, because we're going to find out. He goes through, a lot. This is the start of a nightmare. And then this man sitting here calmly telling us this story was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because his brother died.
Yeah.
Or is missing.
Yeah.
Let's hope, you could hope for that.
Yeah.
But so they had all four gotten a life raft. Nathan said he noticed that there was like a quarter-size hole in the life raft. So it's it's doomed as well.
Yeah.
And so, and it took quite a while for the life raft to just start to be on. And they have life jackets on the reenactment.
Yeah.
But they're in a sinking life raft with no. I mean, I don't know if they had a pump, air pump to,
Yeah.
But they were. It started to get to the point where
this goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, daylight came, and Nathan said he could see in the distance the boat that they had left, and it was like 3 miles away. So they had drifted apart from that boat, which was tough. I would have tried to throw a rope or something to the boat to keep close to it.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm gonna swim.
So he wants to get back to that. You think because it's a bigger flotation device?
He just thought that was his only chance, because the life raft is sinking.
Panicking at this point.
The life raft is sinking, and he sees something,
that's above water.
Buoyancy.
Still. Yeah.
So he's gonna, and all the other three people are like, no, you're crazy, man. We're not gonna get. So we shouldn't separate.
They say something like separation equals death, which I think is a pretty common safety strategy in any sort of outdoor situation. You're not supposed to leave the group. Do you think that they were worried about sharks? Had any of them recently seen
off
Jaws?
the Atlantic coast there in Georgia? I'm sure there's.
It's warm.
Where
was Jaws filmed at?
Oh, that was way up north there, but yeah.
But it was.
Yeah, that was.
Giant great white sharks shouldn't be way up north, should they?
Yeah.
I do that.
That's
coast. All I'd be thinking about as my feet are dangling in the water. Is that the start of Jaws?
Well, so he decides he's going to swim.
3 miles is such a long ways to swim.
Now, I might have messed up the timeline here, because he started swimming as daylight came up, and he's swam all day, 7 hours or something worth of swimming. And he said he was swimming till he couldn't swim no more.
Yeah. He said he thought he was going to die from
he sucked in a bunch of salt water, and what a stud. The guy made it to the boat.
And you're under the direct sun. There's no shade, no nothing.
Right. But this guy he wanted to survive. He wanted to, so he made it to the boat. From there, he's clinging onto the boat and hanging on for dear life. And I'm not sure, I can't remember the timeline, a while later that he noticed something popped up out of the boat, which was actually it was the
hair. My parents, if anyone listened to our story when we recorded, when we stayed at my parents' house, gosh, a while ago, the cat. My parents have a hairless cat that has joined them in their trip down here, and it is demanded to be let in the room. And it's even more vocal than my hairless cat is. So if you hear any chirping or weird sounds in the background, that's Rocket, the hairless cat. Sorry. All right. You bet. And he's obsessed with my dad, so.
Right. Yeah, that's just great. So, anyhow, something popped up, and it was the bait box, which was in the reenactment. It was a pretty good sized bait box.
That also gave me stress because then that means if the bait's been dumped, that's like chum. Yeah. That's the first thing I thought.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he swam to the bait box, and he was glad to see that like one side of it was kind of open. It was like it was this big monster cooler, if you will. And it was floating, and he jumped in that, and he said,
yeah, the side of it, the small side. So it almost looked like a floating coffin. I mean, crazy enough, where the end of it would have been detached. Because he said he didn't have enough strength. He wouldn't have been able to lift himself up into it. But thankfully, he said it was almost like the most amazing luck. He swam around the side, and the front of it was open. He was able just to like weasel himself into there.
I could imagine if trying to get up in it and pull yourself up in it while you're doing that, it's going to flop over the other way.
Swimming for several hours, no way.
Yeah. So he climbed in there, and that was his lifeboat. And so he's hanging out there, and he sees off in the distance, about 3 miles away, and he said from the the direction that he thought his friends were in, he saw this big ship coming. It was a steamer. He saw black smoke billowing, but he saw it was moving, and when those big diesel engines pump out and throttle up, they blow out a bunch of diesel smoke out of the stacks. And he noticed that happening quite a few times, where it moved like 3 times or 4 times, and so he's sitting here watching it in the distance, 3 miles away. And his thought and his hope, I think, were that those guys were getting picked up by this ship. So that's from there. He's now in this 4 days after the initial wreck, 4 days after they took off. I think he was out in the water for 4 days. And someone came by and found him and rescued him. And he was near death. So,
did you ever watch the show I Survived?
I don't think so.
So I watched one episode of it, and it was about some people that had been stranded at sea. Right. And it's a harrowing, terrifying story. But you get to the point where you're so thirsty because you're also being sunburned like crazy that you start drinking the salt water, which then actually dehydrates you more. And like you start hallucinating, like it makes you a crazy person. And that's all I kept thinking about when I was watching this is like, that's 4 endless days. I'm sure every minute felt like 7 hours. I just like, this is one of the scariest situations I think a human being could be in.
Yeah. And the sun was beating down on him. So he was, thankfully he was rescued. And so as the story goes, he's telling, he's like, man, I saw my friends. Now, there was also a report that was the largest Coast Guard search and rescue effort ever up to that point, historic until that date, 1990.
Do you think some of their distress signal must have gotten out? Because they were expected for 7 days, so they weren't expected back yet.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like after he got rescued, then he reports, and then they weren't searching for him.
Okay.
But the owner of the boat said that they never found any of the remains of the people, or of the three men, Nathan's brother, or the other 2 guys.
Yeah.
Or the
life raft.
The life raft.
Yeah.
And I think in the reenactment they had some of those big orange, like the big bubble pads that they have on the side of the boat. Mm-hmm. Sometimes use them for marking crab pots or whatever, but they never found any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I can't recall the timeline. I think it was within that year. They had the owner of the ship, can't recall his name, but then one of the sisters of the boys that died, they got like all within a year. They got like 5 or 6 phone calls. So they started out
out
with
of
one.
Nowhere.
Yeah. And the first 2 calls they got the sister got called and then the owner got called, and they were visiting, like they said, like 6 weeks later.
6 weeks later, yeah.
And they're visiting. They're like, yeah, we got this weird phone call. And it was, we didn't understand them.
Spanish, yeah.
Yeah. But they said something about we're bringing him back. And they both kind of shrugged it off because they couldn't understand him.
Mm-hmm.
But they were both about the same exact timeline. So that kind of, prompted their hope a little bit that, hey, maybe these guys got picked up. And there's all kinds of, I read some articles about all the different ideas and little Facebook posts about, did these guys get picked up? And I don't think it's out of the realm that they got picked up by, a foreign boat that does
piracy. I'm the captain now.
Yeah,
I mean, it happens, right?
Well, yeah, they basically I know that there's, since we've heard about some of the Colombian drug lords that just take these people as slaves and they're downstairs in a ship making drugs type thing.
Yeah.
So whether but somebody tried to call those 2 homes like 5 or 6 times.
I think of the course over a year. And the sister said she felt like one of these men must have made a friend who was putting himself in some sort of danger by at least trying to throw a lifeline or saying, I'm going to try to get him home or bring him back. But there's a language barrier there. But I think, so my time frame of doing this, sadly, almost every time there's someone missing, you see opportunists. We saw this even with the Nancy Guthrie, this old woman that just was kidnapped from her home. We saw multiple ransom notes, right? But I found what was interesting about this was the fact that the man on the phone, she said, kept repeating their last name and their phone number, but then the rest of it was in Spanish and she didn't understand it. And then the man who owned the boat, whose wife answered the phone, said the same thing. And so the phone number and the name, and again in Spanish. And so to me, that gives it a little bit more credibility of this not being some sort of like, I mean, I've even seen hoaxes on these shows where people go missing just for the fun of it.
So here's the deal, Sierra. Do you have viewers or listeners to your podcast down in South America or someplace where these guys may be? And today, you could help solve this.
We could help solve it. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
That would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We get downloads all over the world in some crazy places that I wouldn't ever expect. And so, yeah, I mean, there is still, so the update is this is still unsolved, right? As far as there is no
Nathan,
certainty.
Who survived, is like 54 years old now.
Were you looking for social media earlier? I heard you and Mom talking about
but there was some, and there, of course, there were some posts on that, but I don't think he had any Facebook activity for like 15 years or 10 years. But it was, I saw the post where it was him, and I don't do Facebook, so, but he had a picture of a buck that he'd shot, and he was near the water, which I thought was kind of peculiar.
Yeah.
Here he was, he'd survived in this.
I can't believe I don't think I'd ever go back to the ocean again. Yeah.
But I feel, like, again, there were people in that in a Facebook post that said, things like, oh, this is all just, stories. And I don't, he was involved. And how could that was his brother on the ship with him. And he survived and he had hope, well, was he hallucinating when he saw the ship? Well, he had some pretty straightforward details about, he saw the ship and saw it passing, blowing black smoke 4 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I value he was the only eyewitness to this.
Yeah.
So I think there's some credibility to.
So, I mean, that's the thing. If there is a case where these men unfortunately lost their lives at sea, which happens in cases like this, but there is still a possibility where they were picked up by a foreign steamer that was, and then nefarious, human trafficking, and humans are used as goods all the time, sadly, to this day. And so there is a chance that these men could be living their life somewhere in the South of America, somewhere between here and, Georgia and Panama or something, and have been stuck in some sort of loop. We saw it with, that's one of the theories in the Amy Bradley case as well. That I don't know if you know much about that girl went missing off a cruise ship with her family. Yeah. Just on a cruise, went outside to have a cigarette, and dad got up to get coffee or something and never saw her again.
Wow.
And how do you go missing off a boat? But, it was in that they were same area. And so that's crazy. All right. Well, thanks. How was the research on that? Was it as hard as you thought it was going to be? What did you say earlier that Googled?
It's amazing how much stuff you can find if you just start Googling with AI stuff these days. But I appreciated, I kind of researched the town a little bit. It looked like a really cool town. I think the town, it's famed for having Henry Ford had retired there. So the great the owner of Ford retired there and had a big
mansion.
But it looked like a really cool place, and folks had a fortune to live where they did over there.
Can you imagine spending 7 days on a medium-sized boat? I'd be puking my guts out.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a lot of rocking around, and I mean, I don't know. You've been like crazy fishing, right, out in the ocean, like.
Yeah, but not. There's some friends of mine that go tuna fishing, and they go 90 miles out, and it's. I've had every time I have had the chance, I've had to work.
Yeah.
And it would have been cool to go out tuna fishing off the Oregon coast. Is pretty cool. Yeah, out. 90 miles.
That's Or again, anything happens.
Yeah.
You're on your own. All right. So I'm going to tell you guys a lost love story, and it's the child of Mac McDonald. So 63-year-old Wilford Mac McDonald is searching for his daughter, and he's interviewed on this. He's the main talking head. I think that's an important note to have. Who he claims he was forced to abandon after his girlfriend's mother threatened to file rape charges against him. So we got a lot to unpack with just that right there. So his story begins in Pomona, California, 1948. And I looked this up because Unsolved Mysteries once again fails to note an age difference here. He's 20 years old at the time. And he falls in love with the girl next door, who at the time is 16 years old. And her name is Mary Helen Carr. And according to him, he says that one day she approached him and talking to him about his motorcycle. He asked her if she wanted to go for a ride, but she said that her mother would forbid her, especially since he was so much older than her. However, a few days later, when her mother was not home, they decide to go on a motorcycle ride. And this is the beginning of a secretive relationship. Then one day, her mother catches them together. According to Unsolved Mysteries, at least the reenactment, it appears that they're pulling into the driveway on the motorcycle, and the mother is standing outside waiting, which I'm sure at that point her stomach fell out and she wanted to vomit. So, but I never did anything as a teenager that my parents wouldn't have approved of, so I wouldn't have known what that felt like.
Good answer. See, that away.
So he says that he felt like he was in trouble since he had been caught as a 20-year-old with a 16-year-old, and he flees. He decides to run off to Texas to work in the oil fields, which I'm sure at the time was a lucrative career. And so they're in California, and he hops on his motorcycle and leaves and says, you guys, the way he tells the story, I wanted to punch this man in the face. Talking about how he just cried the whole way on his motorcycle to California, and he's the victim in this story. However, 3 weeks later, Mary runs away from home to join Mac in Houston. He says that the best day of his life is she calls him up from the payphone at a bus stop and says, "I'm here, come pick me up." And he drives down immediately and gets her. And then the next day, posing as husband and wife, they find an apartment together and basically start playing housewife and or start playing marriage together. And they plan on spending the rest of their lives together. 1 month later, however, a friend calls in when and lets him know that the police are on the way to the apartment because the mother has pressed statutory rape charges against him. And so once again, he grabs his stuff and flees, leaving the girl there completely by herself. And he decides at that point that he leaves Texas and heads back to California so that he can't get in trouble, I guess. And Mary is also taken back to California. So after a year, Mac returns down to the area of Long Beach, which I believe is near where they had originally met. And him and a friend stop in at a drive-in. And he is shocked to find that Mary's working there as a car hop. So she tells him, hey, you should come visit me at my apartment when you get off work because you can meet your child.
Bum, bum, bum.
What? Now, again, I cannot stress this enough. This story is completely told from his side of the story. And so he, according is like, almost like that this is fate, that he stops in at this restaurant. He had no idea that she worked there and that he meets her and then he finds this out and that he's so over like the moon excited that the moment she gets off work, he runs to her apartment and, is shocked, sadly, when he knocks on the door instead of his beloved Mary standing there, it's Mary's mother is standing holding a baby. And apparently, according to him at that moment, he begins to panic. And so he thinks that this meetup is like a well orchestrated setup sting operation, and that the police were hiding in the bedroom somewhere to arrest him on these charges.
Fortunately for him, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It could have been.
Yeah, I mean, don't hook up with 16-year-olds, I guess, right? Like, moral of the story. So Mac holds his baby, and while he was afraid of the police were coming in to arrest him, at the time in California, statutory rape was punishable by up to 30 years in prison. So this is just running through his mind, and he basically, hands the baby back over and yeets right out of the apartment before even finding out the name or if the baby was a boy or a girl. However, according to him, he is now realizing this late in life that he has made a huge mistake and he should have stayed behind for the child. And of course, today, he is a successful millionaire who has a substantial estate. He started a business within the oil community. So he must have gone back to Texas, I'm guessing, or something. He wants to leave this child his legacy when he passes away. And so he's looking for this person, could be boy or girl, and wants to make up for his wrongdoings and all of this regret that he has carried all of these years. Because again, he's the victim in this, according to him. And that's kind of where Unsolved Mystery leaves us. So, you ready for your update?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you have done, first off, if I was 16 and the 20-year-old neighbor was trying to take me on his motorcycle?
Well, that's a good question, because I don't think this lady was there a father? Was her dad around?
I have no idea about any of that.
Yeah.
I just know that the mom, the
old cleaning the shotgun on the front porch comes to mind for sure.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I understand that teenagers will do what teenagers will do.
Right.
And sometimes there's only so much you can do. I will say, I think getting to the point where your daughter is now run away and is playing housewife with at that point, potentially a 21-year-old, getting the law involved is not by any means out of bounds. This relationship was highly inappropriate. He was the adult in the room.
Right.
Once she showed up,
I have 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters, and I can't say that I was always the biggest fan of every one of the young men that you guys dated. And I sometimes would express that to you.
I remember, yes.
And I don't know that I was shy about, but I don't.
No, every guy that I dated that you were not interested in being around, you made it very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what did you think of Ben? What was the first time you really remember meeting Ben?
I was at your apartment in Portland, and went up there. I was up there for work and came to see you, and we were going to go out to dinner or something. And he just showed up, and I liked him.
Yeah.
And of course, since I've learned to love not just Ben, but my other.
Yeah, well, Ben is the
son-in-laws
first and the best because the oldest is always the best. So I paved the way.
Well, you guys, my children have all done. I'm very grateful for all of their spouses. They've done, made great choices, and they're doing very well.
But
I'm really grateful for
as a father, there was times that your gut told you, and I will say, someone said, and it might have even been him that was honest, like his mom just had a gut feeling about me, or her mom had a gut feeling about me and decided she didn't like me. And I think that that's something that a lot of parents have.
Right.
Pretty quickly, like, yeah, this is not it.
Well, all of my son-in-laws visited with me and asked for our daughter's hands in marriage. I mean, they all respected our family.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot to be said about when you meet a young man, as you have, I have a granddaughter, you have a daughter that's 14. And when you meet young men that come visit, it's like, are they going to be respectful and polite? Mm-hmm. And,
Yeah. And that was kind of my point, is that maybe the motorcycle riding and stuff, and maybe that age gap at that time wasn't as big of a deal as it is now. The point that I thought was the pivotal point in this is that she ran away from home. According to him, she ran away from home without his knowledge, which I don't buy it for a second. At that point, he is the adult in the situation, and that's where his kind of, I think, culpability super changes, where now you're lying and getting apartments with this girl that you know is underage. You should have told this girl, hey, you need to go home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's call your mom.
Let's call your mom. Let's get you a bus ticket back. I'll cover the cost.
Right.
You need to, and let's write letters or whatever. You're only a few years away from being an adult. Let's see what happens over the next few years. So, okay, here's your update. Solved. As a result of the broadcast, Mac learned that he had a 43-year-old daughter named Sherry Blackman, who was married with 2 children. The viewer who called the telecenter was Mary. Sherry had been raised by a loving and caring stepfather, and it's very clear, because she's also interviewed, that this is really difficult for her to come to terms with. That he all of a sudden, after 43 years, wanted to be a part of her life. She didn't seem super into it. So a week after the broadcast, and this is videotape, Mac arrives at Sherry's home in Denver, Colorado, where he's reunited with her. Although she felt that the situation was emotionally traumatic, she had expressed in the end that she was willing to have him be a part of her life. Okay, that's the update that Unsolved Mysteries gave us. Here's what I found. Okay. It gets weird.
Yeah.
So Mac passed away April 11th, 2017, at the age of 88. In his obituary, his daughter is not named amongst the survived by, but a son is named, as well as a handful of grandkids. He also seems to have been married at some point, but according to his own words in the episode, and I quote, "I am very much alone. I've never been married, and no one," and then, or I guess Robert Sachs says, "and no one from his immediate family is alive." Weird. That's why he claims to be looking for the heir. It turns out at the time, he had at least been married and at least had a child and possibly a grandchildren at the time that he went on Unsolved Mysteries.
Wow.
And if he was so well off, why did he choose to go onto Unsolved Mysteries when he could have paid for a private detective to try to figure out this case?
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird. Why would he lie about all of this stuff? And then
Well, he wasn't the
he said he wanted to give this business to her or leave all this money to her.
Yeah.
And then it turns out he has a son and grandchildren.
Well, his level of integrity was a little bit
yeah, exactly. Shy. So I mean, I was on Reddit, so take this with a grain of salt. There's a lot of people that were like, did this guy just want 15 minutes of fame and kind of fabricated this story? There's another theory floating around that Mac, and again, no one sourced where this original idea came from, that Mac at one point had then demanded a DNA test before he would turn over any assets to her. And it turned out that she wasn't his biological daughter. And so then the relationship dissolved. Again, that's not based on, I couldn't find her on social media. I couldn't find her mother on social media. I tried to look and see if they had ever made a statement on any of this, because they both agreed. Even the girlfriend, the mother, the biological mother, is interviewed for like 0.2 seconds, and she doesn't look happy to be there on Unsolved Mysteries.
Right.
It seems very much like I would have loved to seen her side of the story, and how she felt that.
Well, do those guys, did the producers or the folks that did Unsolved Mysteries, did they give anyone that came on and did interviews, was there a stipend of payment to them or anything?
That's a great question. There's been several times where I'm like, how did this get past people?
Right.
Was this a sensational story? I mean, you're helping potentially a man who at one point could have been convicted of statutory rape find a daughter. And did anyone check this backstory? Yeah. Did anyone look into this man? He had the divorce paperwork, or his filing of divorce is public record.
Because if you didn't get paid, if people weren't paid, I mean, as I'm looking at this episode 4, or season 4, episode 13 or whatever, 14, I'm looking at it. There's like 1 million views.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so FilmRise owns all of the rights now to Unsolved Mysteries, so it's not the original creator who does it, but FilmRise is making money off of this being streamed. Right. Yeah, I mean, this was a lucrative business. Yeah, this was a huge show at the time.
They need to throw some salad to the people that got interviewed and never made a dime.
Never made a dime off of it, right? Well, I mean, you look at all the people like that were on Jerry Springer and the crazy early 90s talk shows where shenanigans happened.
Oh, those people need paid for sure.
They were not paid a dime. They were booked a trip to New York or LA and thought that was like the best thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah,
Did you watch the documentary on Jerry Springer?
No.
Oh,
no.
Man, that documentary is bananas. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like this guy, Mac. I'm not buying what he's selling. Like, something about this isn't adding up. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't appear that Sherry's named amongst his survivors. However, Mac's no longer with us, so I guess he really can't say anything. I couldn't even find a business name attached to him. I don't know if a son and the grandkids inherited $1 million or an empire. I don't know. So I hope that Sherry's doing well and that Sherry's mother is doing well, and that, it sounded like she was raised by a great man in her life as her stepfather, and that's, I guess, what matters. Okay. So our last story today is about a man named William Wood, and he is a wanted individual. So Robert Stack's voice is currently on the television as we are getting B-roll footage of very 80s Las Vegas. And I legitimately have never been to Vegas, but if you want to meet me in Vegas, I will be at CrimeCon, so come find me. I have cool things to hand out. That's a plug for you. But it seemed like Vegas in the late 80s and early 90s was just happening place. Lights, gambling, everything. So that says every year, Robert tells us, every year more than 20 million tourists, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Descend upon Las Vegas, Nevada, the gambling capital of the world.
There's a lot of buffets there too. I mean,
well, that's actually the thing I'm most excited about is the food.
Exactly.
I don't understand gambling.
Penny slots and buffets.
Yeah, I could see penny slots. There's a coin game that you can play like at an arcade where you flick a coin and it builds up and it this little pusher thing pushes the coins out and whatever drops down you get. I will say I've been locked into that pretty hard a few times at the nickel arcade. If there's that in Vegas, I don't know if I'll make it to CrimeCon or if I'll just be there with
Watching
croissants.
the coins come off the
Yeah, I'm obsessed
cliff.
with it. I don't know, and I could not win a dime, but I'm just
Well,
the tension building of getting that in the right spot so that more get knocked down. That really hits a dopamine level for me, apparently. But I've done like penny slots or nickel slots one time when Ben and I got stuck on one of the way home from the coast. The weather was really bad. The fog was something. We pulled over and ate at a casino on the Oregon coast because there's a few of them. And we were just waiting to kill time to get back on the road. And we'd eaten a burger or something. And I think we took like $10 and cashed it out into nickels. The 10 or 20 bucks was gone in like 8 minutes.
Yep, $20. That's my deal sometimes.
And I was like, this is the worst 20 bucks I've ever spent in my life.
Exactly.
It was not entertaining. I don't get it. We took the kids out to lunch yesterday.
There's just push button slots. They push the buttons. I don't trust
those. That's all computer.
There's not the old. I think they maybe have the handle,
the crank,
but the old handle ones back then, probably the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
had a little bit of, you could instead of just push the button.
House always wins. That's the only thing I've learned from it. And unless I can learn how to count cards, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took the kids yesterday out to lunch, and they had a high stakes poker TV on or something. And oddly enough, Kevin Hart was there playing poker on the television, which is, I think, the only reason I was locked in. His wife was in the background looking annoyed as heck. And they were playing for like $500,000 pots. And I was getting sweaty pits watching these guys. And my daughter turns to me and is like, why would anyone find this fun? She's like, I don't get it. Like, she's such if there's a risk of anything, I'm out. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at one point he threw down like these humongous wads of cash stacks of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's life-changing money for some people. And you guys are up in some hotel in Vegas.
Yeah. He lost a bunch, but then he won a bunch back.
He won a bunch back.
And his wife was still emotionless.
She looked so annoyed in
either she didn't look happy when he lost, but she didn't look happy when he won. She was just like,
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't get it. So he tells us that most people only come for one reason, and that is with a chance to spend some money and to win some money. I don't know. I'm staying at Caesar Palace, and there's a pastry shop there that sells croissants up the wazoo, all different flavors and stuff. I'm about to get after some pastries. That's the only. I've literally also Hell's Kitchen is there, the Gordon Ramsay restaurant. That's all I plan to do in Vegas. I'm going to spend my money on food.
I doubt those celebrities hang out at the buffet. They probably just have, room service. I mean,
the food
you don't want to be
and
bugged
the drinks that they were sipping on, I never seen a wine glass that wine glass was the size of Kevin Hart. He basically had to
well, how tall is he?
Like 4'2". No, I mean,
he is one funny dude.
He is hilarious, and him with the Rock standing next to him makes him look like a little, like an action figure. Yeah, but okay, so it's no wonder that Vegas also then becomes the mecca and the home for every kind of hustler and con artist imaginable. There's a sucker born every minute, and we're going to take them for all they got. It's a quote from a movie. I can't remember which one. And in 1986, an ex-cop turned loser pops up in Las Vegas under the name Maxwell Carson, a.k.a. William John Wood, who had resigned from the Toledo, Ohio police after being investigated for misconduct. Between 1977 and 1985, he was committed for jail service several times with a number of offenses, including check fraud, impersonating an officer, and assault with an intent to rape. And he used his image as a movie producer to manipulate actresses and models into doing whatever he wanted. And in 1989, Carson began holding auditions for a film. One model in particular, named Tiffany, and has the protection of anonymity through this story. She's telling us her story from her. It's her telling it, but she's darked. And so I'm not sure she's, a victim in this, but she tells us that she caught his eye and she's talking to him about this movie, and there's some conversation going back and forth, but no real work is ever done on the movie for it to move forward. His business turns out is heavily in debt and on the verge of collapse, but that is not something he talked about to anybody. So January 1990, Maxwell shuts down his offices, but maintained the appearance that the business was still ongoing. And in February, Maxwell arranges to meet Tiffany at a motel later in the afternoon under the guise of being a replacement for a model who had backed out of a photo shoot. After the two meet up, Tiffany began feeling uncomfortable when she noted that there was no other people around besides Maxwell. And she tells us she goes in, he takes her into a hotel room and she instantly feels uncomfortable. And so she actually puts her purse between the door and the door frame to give herself an easy out. Um, and then even at one point says that she is like, I'm out of here, and tries to leave. And that he becomes violent at that point and gets violent towards her and abusive and ends up, sexually assaulting her. And just at that point, then also threatens her because they are in Las Vegas that if she tells anybody what had happened, he is going to actually accuse her of prostitution. And so she could be facing some serious consequences at the time.
And of course, she has no idea that this guy's back, story. I mean, he's been arrested many times.
We got
and all
nothing.
That stuff.
No one is doing background checks on anybody.
So she can't say, yeah, well, guess what?
Yeah, guess what, loser?
I'll call the police and you're going to be like,
so
all your records are going to get
despite all of that, Tiffany actually that afternoon or that evening calls the police and they take it serious. So they end up charging him, Max, with kidnapping, assault, and battery, as well as sexual assault. And Max, what does he do? He's gone. He is out of there. He disappears before the arrest can be made. But like all funguses that seem to return time after time, 2 months later, he pops back up in Cocoa Beach, Florida, once again with the same con. Yep. Same exact thing. But this time, this woman at first meets him at a hotel, and he actually then solicits her.
Right.
And she seems to play along with it, and they end up agreeing on a price. Turns out, she's an undercover cop. Sting operation. Bada bing, bada boom.
Sting.
Yep.
Good for them.
Yep. So Max pleads guilty to solicitation and spends 2 days in jail before once again disappearing. Only then did Florida police realize his true identity and his crimes as William John Wood, and that he was wanted in Reno, Nevada as of March 1991. So he literally at this point just becomes a ghost in the wind. But he has several aliases. He could be operating this scam anywhere throughout the country, but seems to prefer Las Vegas, Florida, and Southern California, kind of those hot spots where you see entertainment, modeling, all of that sort of stuff, right? And they believe that he is likely impersonating a film producer, a talent agent, and could be using the pseudonym of Max Carson at the time. And we see a picture of this scumbag. He is like the scum beneath my toes sort of looking guy. He looks like just gross, human garbage. So that is where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. So here's your update. He's captured.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Okay, all right, here you go. Here's your...
Nice.
Captured. January 1998, William John Wood was captured after an Unsolved Mysteries viewer contacted the FBI and tells them about his whereabouts. William was arrested under the assumed name he was going on at the time, which was Brian O'Leary in San Francisco.
He was he was not Italian. He was O'Leary.
Yeah, he's pretending to be Irish.
He was Irish.
Irish. What are you talking about? Yeah, he's like, they're always after me, Lucky Charms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian O'Leary in San Francisco, eh? Yeah.
That was good.
They went from Irish to Canadian. Oh, that's so funny. So he's charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. He's convicted of attempted sexual assault and coercion and is sentenced to 26 years in prison. It appears that his last parole hearing was December 3rd, 2012, and the Nevada Department of Corrections, as of today, has him marked and filed as, quote, discharged/released.
Oh.
Again, I doubt this human pile of garbage has changed his ways in any way, shape, or form. We tend to not see a lot of change in behavior in these sorts of crimes. However, I could not find another arrest record or that this man is even registered on any predator list anywhere that he'd been associated with before. So, but again, he went under several different aliases at all times.
He's in Ireland.
He's in Ireland.
David O'Leary.
Yeah, good luck with him over there in Ireland. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. You guys, that's it. That is our recap here with my pops.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
See, what did Ben have to complain about?
This is, and so you know this here, but your mother loves this kind of stuff. She just loves these murder mystery stuff.
She hated the show Unsolved Mysteries,
well,
though. She says she does not like Robert Stack. She doesn't like his voice. She doesn't like the way he dressed. And
he's got nice hair.
He's a handsome looking older gentleman, always dressed very well.
It's very stiff.
Very stiff.
A trench coat.
Every time. Just about. But she does not like the fact that the TV show, even though it's named Unsolved Mysteries, that the stories were unsolved. Everyone is shocked. And I was Derek Stroop just released a Netflix comedy hour. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Derek is one of the funniest men in comedy I have ever. Yep. I've had the pleasure of meeting him before. He is he is so freaking funny.
Yep, Pam and I saw him with Nathan Bargatze in Eugene here about 2 months ago.
He released this hour, and he actually has a whole bit about Unsolved Mysteries. And I need to reach out to him and be like, hey, you don't need my promotion, but I would love a little cross promotion on your part. But Mom was in that camp as far as she hated watching the show because there was never any answers.
Well, they solved through this. I don't care if they solved one case. That's great.
Here you go. You've got this guy captured, William John Woods off, taken out of the street.
And somebody on this episode is probably, wait a minute. I was trying to call for those 3 guys that we picked up on that ship, and they're in Russia. And so now they're going to call.
We'll solve the next one.
They call. Who do they call? Unsolved Mystery.
Unsolved Mysteries no longer exists, but you can submit a tip on the Unsolved Mysteries website. So I think it's like unsolvedmystery.com. The very bottom of the page is a giant red button that says submit a tip. They still are taking tips.
Wow.
And any of these international cases or anything like that, you can report tips to your local FBI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. You can even text them now, and you can remain anonymous if you do it through Crime Stoppers. And I always tell people, if you have information and you are so scared to share it, you can email unsolvedcouplepod@gmail.com and I will submit it for you. I have no problem doing that. So, okay, but we end every episode with silly question time with Ben. Ben's not here, so we get to do silly question time with Dad. And this is fun because I've asked Ben now 80-something questions, and every week I have to scrounge for a new one. But since you haven't been here before, I can ask you, do you believe in any sort of mythical Bigfoot creatures, UFO, any of that sort of do you know what I'm saying? These unbelievable creatures as far as that goes. Aliens, Bigfoot, anything like that.
Unicorn blood.
Mermaids, sirens.
Baltimore drinking the unicorn blood to stay alive.
Anything along those lines. Are you absolutely not, 0 of these things exist?
No, I don't. Although as a young, 7th grader, I was at a place we went camping. My brother and I went camping.
I was hoping you would share this story.
Okay. Well, I share it with my grandkids all the time because it's awesome.
You share it with your grandkids, and you shared it with me as a kid. But you were like born and raised I mean, you actually were like lived down here in Tucson for a little while, didn't you?
Yeah, my dad was
Lived
in the
in Southern
service, and so
California for a little while, but
uh,
then you spent most of your life in the Pacific Northwest. And
mhm.
one of the biggest things in the Pacific Northwest is Bigfoot.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, so my older brother Tom and I, we went to my grandparents um, did what they call fire watch for logging outfits. They were retired, but they would take their camper and they'd go keep an eye on logging equipment in the summer. And after logging equipment's shut down at the end of the day, they hang out for a couple hours, making sure that no fires get started from the highly logging systems and the cables, blah blah blah. Anyway, they were camping out Pam and I don't live far from there now. They were camping at Lake in the Woods, and they said, "Hey, you and Tom want
I
to?"
had no clue that it was at Lake in the Woods.
Yeah, yeah,
We're up there every summer, just about.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So we go up there, and my parents pulled their camper up there, and my brother Tom and I stayed up there in the summer for like 2 weeks, before football, season starts and daily doubles and all that baloney. So we were up there, and we were fishing on this little lake and catching fish all the time. And there was a kid that was there. He was like an Eagle Scout. But anyhow, this kid starts talking to us. He's on there was this little raft that was, if you put two people on it, it was like a wooden raft that you could push around in this little tiny lake. Um, Three people on it, you were going to get your tennis shoes wet. Anyway, this kid hopped on and we were fishing with him, and he was telling us that his parents, we noticed that every night they would take off with like a bag of food, like in a bread sack or something. It was him and his mom, or his mom and dad, and him and his sister. They would like wander off to go down this. So, we're also, where do you guys go? You guys right at, dusk. Like, oh, we go to feed Bigfoot. And I'm like, no way. And we were just captivated by this guy. Well, we went back to their campsite, and that day, and they had articles where they'd written in local papers. They were in magazines. They had castings of Bigfoot prints, and supposedly
All
hair.
at their campground?
They had
like,
stuff. Yes,
were they like there for the summer? Like
they were.
They were locked in.
They were, and they were like supposedly had a deal with Disney. That's what they told us.
Henry
they were like,
and the Hendersons.
Well, they were like, it was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
They were legit human. Like this was, yeah.
So the next day, my brother Tom and I decide we're going to go down this trail, and we're going to take our fishing poles, and there's a creek you can go down from the waterfalls down, and hey, Grandpa is going to pick us up at the road. And it was maybe a mile worth of creek line that we were going to fish. And there was, pan-fried fish. You were just size trout. But I was so freaked out just cruising down this trail because it's a steep little creek. And every move, everything you heard was like, oh, there's Bigfoot. And I was, 7th grade, maybe 8th. I might have been 8th or 9th grade. I don't know. But it was, I'll never forget it. And this guy had me sold that there was Bigfoot.
They were taking the food somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea where they took the food? Just the direction that they...
We were too freaked out to follow them too far.
Man, I would have been all over that.
Because we followed them then, that night. And the next day we decided we're going to go fishing.
Okay. This summer when we come up to Oregon, we're going to Lake in the Woods.
We'll take that trail.
Do you feel like you know where that trail is?
Oh, yeah. It's a common trail. People use it all the time. There's a couple different trails to different falls right there at Lake in the Woods, up by Hemlock Lake, up Little River. Yeah.
Man, we got to find a cave somewhere. There's got to be.
Yeah.
But they said they were feeding Bigfoot. They were just leaving. I've got so many questions. I'm like, if this sounds familiar to anybody that you guys told a couple of kids this fake news story.
They had me sold.
Yeah, please reach out to me and let me know.
Yeah. And this young man he was a couple of years older than us, but he was really tall. Mm-hmm. I don't remember his name, but I know he was an Eagle Scout. And he kept fishing, throwing his bait or his lures at big bubbles in the lake. And I'm like, oh, those are frogs or something.
Yeah.
That kid caught like a monster trout one day. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to start fishing at these bubbles, But anyway, we caught a lot of fish there and had a lot of fun.
So
Great summer.
That experience, you've taken that through your life, but so I was like, my dad is in Forest Service, like power lines, like your whole life. You've worked basically, other than the time you were in the service, out in the woods.
Right.
And you don't believe in Bigfoot?
No.
Do you wish Bigfoot was real? Would you? Would that be like the best news ever? Would that be cool?
Well, I know that there's, theory. You like, okay, well, how come they haven't found any bones, or how come there are no remains? Yeah. Oh, they bury their bones. They're very smart
that way. I just think they're eternal. They figured out. They also know where the fountain of youth is. Apparently, right. Yeah.
So that said,
yeah,
great segue, because one of the first movies that that I ever saw Sierra cry in. First movie you got so wound up and so emotional was Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah.
I still cry if I watch that movie.
I was like,
maybe that's why I'm such a sucker for animals now. I see any animal that's needs help, and I'm like, you can just come live with me now.
So yeah, that'd be cool if that movie it was real.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe in Bigfoot, but I called him Grandpa Hook. So my great grandfather had a missing hand from a logging accident, and he had a hook. Not a hook. It was a claw, but we called him Grandpa Hook.
Right.
And we went up on a family reunion one time somewhere where Bigfoot was supposed to be well known from.
Hood.
Yeah, and Grandpa shared several stories. I think probably more just to freak a bunch of us grandkids out. But there was Bigfoot statues everywhere carved out of logs and different things like that.
Yeah.
And so I do believe in Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
They have a Bigfoot festival in our hometown in Glide.
Yeah.
And I heard, a couple guys came at the festival and had a big story about it.
There's actually, I saw today, and I think it is in Ohio. We pulled up real quick that there's been several Bigfoot sightings in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
In Ohio?
Sightings in the last 5 days in Newtown Township in Ohio, as in the first week of March. There's been several sightings of something up there. Wow. So I don't know. Maybe they've migrated. Maybe they migrate. Well, that would be cold. Maybe it's too cold up there in Ohio for me.
The footprints that'd be cool to find. Big old muddy, big old 18, 24-inch long foot. Yeah. That'd be cool.
What about aliens?
I think they're, it's hard to say.
It is hard to say, isn't
it? Because God's had worlds without end.
Yeah.
And so.
And to believe in this vast universe that we are the only intelligent beings, I can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
But to have technology, when you factor in the math of light years and stuff like that, would be, to us, I think that's unthinkable. But then when you also think about, if we told the pioneers
some
the
of
technology that we have now, they would think the same thing. But
some of the Native American testimonies of naval pilots and stuff because that's come out here recently in Congress and stuff. That's been pretty cool.
You've even got stories of from Native American stories telling about, these visitors and stuff like that came and shared knowledge and did things. And so I don't know. I want all things to be real. I want unicorns to have existed at one point. I believe that dragons are extinct, that they were real at one point.
Who built the pyramids? All of
those questions that someday we'll get the answers, but we won't be able to share them on a podcast because it'll be in a different life. So, okay, well.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is the end of today's episode, and Ben and I will be back again next week where we recap another episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Bye.
Thank you.